Sweet potato pie. How do I make mine? I'm getting a lot of requests on Facebook how to make this pie, so the easiest way for me to do this would be to show you guys. I'm gonna make it on a small scale. Normally I make it, you know, on a large scale, but just for demonstration purposes, we're gonna do a small scale. So I'm gonna start off with 3 yams, sweet potatoes, whatever you guys want to call them, and I pick mine a certain way. You'll see, like, on the ends there will be, you know, broke off or whatever, and then you'll see like a bunch of crystal brown stuff around the rim of it. That's sugar. They'll let you know that the yam is sweet, and that if you cook with it or bake it or whatever you do, it's gonna come out and it's gonna be naturally sweet. So that's how I pick my yams. I look for the broke off part and see if there's like little crystallized sugar on it, and then I go from there. So I'm gonna peel these up and put them to boil, and we'll be right back. Okay, sweet potatoes are all peeled up. I have them in some water just so they won't turn all brown like, and then I'm gonna show you guys how I cut them up to boil. Do a simple, doesn't have to be too big, but try to cut them as big as the next so that they will cook evenly. And these are smaller, slender yams, so they're gonna be easy to chop up. If you have the big ones, then just do the same thing. Try to cut them as even as possible so that they'll all cook together pretty evenly. And this should be enough to make 1 pie. You can always double the recipe using more yams and all the other ingredients, doubling it. This one was a bigger one, so I cut this in half because it was kind of big. All right, big enough. And I'm gonna add enough cold water just to cover the potatoes. All right, added enough water to cover them, and now we're gonna put them to boil. I don't know exactly how long they boil for just yet, but I will let you know, and we'll be back. Okay, so we've let the yams boil for about 45 minutes. How it looks. And I like for my yams to boil a long time, just so that they could break apart easy when they go into the mixer. You see how it's like fork tender breaking apart? Yes, that's what we want. So I'm gonna strain these off and get them in the mixer. Okay, now that they're strained off, add them to my mixing bowl. And my collapse of dishes over here. And I'm gonna add to this mixing bowl with the yams, like let's say we're gonna do about 2 tablespoons of butter. So it'll be like 1/4 of the stick. Yeah, 1/4 the stick of butter, 2 tablespoons. I'm not gonna use the mixing part just yet. I want it to kind of melt in there, so I'm gonna just swish it all around myself for a minute. Get it melted in. Maybe chop it up a little bit. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to add some of the spices, which consist of cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla. You guys are kind of going on a journey with me because I told you before, I usually just make this from memory and just pour in this, pour in that. But today I'm actually measuring for you guys so we can know how much goes into it. I'm going to pretty much say, I believe, about a teaspoon. You know what? Start off with half teaspoon because this is a smaller batch. I'm going to go with a whole full teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to put in I'm going to put in 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. And I'm going to put in half a teaspoon of salt to start off. And mind you, I used salted butter, so this should be good enough. Half teaspoon of salt. But I'm gonna leave it close by just in case we need some more. And I'm gonna mix that up. And I'm gonna use my spatula to spray down the sides. Make sure everything is getting incorporated. You know, the good thing about using a hand mixer, a standalone mixer, or anything of the sort is that it gathers all of the strings that, you know, are in the yams. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, all those hair, like, strings, it gathers all that. I've noticed that when I've hand mixed it before, it didn't really take those strings out. So it's good to use a hand mixer or a standalone mixer. And it's better for your wrist. Now we're gonna add an egg, some vanilla, and some evaporated milk. And if you're not really good at cracking eggs without getting shells and stuff, then use a separate bowl. Crack it over the bowl. Mix that in. And so I normally use a full can of this milk, but being that I'm just making enough for one pie filling, we're gonna see how it does. I meant to shake it before I open it, but since I didn't, I'm gonna just stir it. And this is just a can of evaporated milk, and they sell smaller cans, less ounces. This is what, a 12 full ounce. So let me measure out and see what the amount we're gonna use of this milk. I'm gonna add some more, another half a can, and see how that looks. I'm talking about another half a cup, not a half a can, another half a cup. So I already added 1/2 cup, and now I'm putting another half cup to make 1 whole cup total. It's looking better to me. And mind you, when we add the sugar, it'll still make it looser. So, and we're gonna do like a teaspoon of vanilla. And so now it's time for the sugar. And I'm going to use white sugar. I guess some people use brown sugar. I do not. I use white sugar. I like the way the white sugar tastes. I don't add lemon either because I use the vanilla extract, so I don't mix the flavors. Just pure vanilla. Starting off with a cup of sugar. I told you guys before, I have not measured this recipe before, so this is my first time really seeing how much goes into it, but I know definitely a cup of sugar. See how it's getting more liquidy or looser because of the sugar. To taste it, because again, I don't remember, or I'm not really sure how much sugar I normally add. So that's what we're gonna do. But before that, we're gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl just to make sure that we're getting everything incorporated. It's tasting pretty good already. I think I'm gonna take that half a teaspoon of salt up one more notch and do a whole full teaspoon because it needs more salt. And be mindful that all salt is different. Some salt is saltier than others, meaning like the iodized salt might be saltier than what I'm using, which is the pink Himalayan sea salt. Pink Himalayan salt. And I also use sea salt, at times. And they're not really super salty salts, so you might need more of them than you would the iodized salt. It just depends on what type you're using. So before you go adding another half a teaspoon or anything like that, you need to taste it and check for yourself and see if you think that it needs more salt. And don't forget, the salt brings out the sweetness. I'm gonna taste it to see how it tastes. That's good. I'm gonna do another half cup of sugar. So that'll bring the total up to 1.5. And I think that'll do it. But let me see. I'm liking how it's looking. It's looking really good. Can you see how good this is looking? And it's nice and smooth and pourable, which is good. That's what you want, be able to pour it into your pie crust. Let me go ahead and stir this up real quick and see how it's doing. Scrape the sides and give it a taste, just to see. Mixing it all up and giving it a taste. Yes, that is it. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Now, at this point, the pie filling is done. This is it. This can go into store-bought pie crust or a homemade pie crust. And I'm going to show you guys both. I personally prefer to do my pie crust homemade, but in a pinch, I will use a store-bought. In a pinch, which is not that often. But I bought some just to show you guys how to do it. Okay? Oh, and at this point, you can go ahead on and preheat your oven to 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. Okay, so pre-bought store pie crust comes all different kind of ways. You can get the kind that's already in the tin foil, that's frozen. You can get the kind that's like in the refrigerator section that's not frozen, but you have to roll out kind of, or unravel, and put in your own tin pan. That's the kind that I got. When I do use it, this is the kind that I use. And you can use whatever your preference is. And this is just for the ones that want to use store-bought crust, that don't want to go through the trouble of making it themselves. And this is how it's done. And honestly, the other one that's like frozen already, it's easier than this. Because this one's almost like having to roll out your own pie crust. Parts that were broke, we're going to just mend those together like so. I'm just going through the motions of trying to fit this pie crust in here. And I didn't butter the pan. Usually pie crusts have a lot of butter in it already, so you don't necessarily need to butter your pan, your tin, whatever you want to call it, pie plate. You can get fancy with the design of it, I guess. I never really do. I kind of just do like a generic little fold over. But I'll show it to you much as best I can. I normally have more crust to work with when I I'm using my homemade crust. So for this one, I'm going to just do some simple folds, just so it has like a little design, nothing major. Probably won't be super pretty, but that's okay because it'll taste super good. And the oven is still preheating. That's why I'm able to take my time to do this, because we still got time. You can pinch it together, fold it together. You can do a number of things. But if you're super creative, you could get even fancier and do something more creative. Look at how you can design it. Okay. And that's it. I just did some kind of like little, folds. Nothing major. Okay. So we have our custard here that we made. And now we're going to just pour some. This might actually end up being enough for 2 pies. Ugh. And whenever you make extra pie filling and you don't want to use it right then and there, you can always freeze it. Put it in a Ziploc bag, label it, date it, freeze it. For when you want pie again. I'm going to just pour it in there. Just pour it in there. Maybe it won't be enough for 2. Maybe we were right on the money. Okay, I don't want some drip everywhere. You can make some miniature pies with it, with the leftover. Just gotta kind of spread it around and get it nice and even. And see, it's nice and watery. It's nice and jiggly. I don't know if you can see that or not. Nice and jiggly. I think my arm is creating a shadow. But you see how it's bouncing? Okay. Well, yes. It's alright. We put the egg in there and that milk in there. Gonna make the custard. And so we do have some filling left over from those 3 potatoes. We're going to have to make some mini pies. Get some mini pie crust, some mini foil pie pans, and make a few mini pies. Yeah. Freeze it. And then you make another batch of filling. Add that batch together to create more pies if necessary. So being that this is so watery, you're going to have to put it on a baking sheet. Okay. Probably should have put it on the baking sheet before we filled it. That might have been a smart idea. And then just going to, like so, gently put it over. And it's on the baking sheet. And then into the preheated 400-degree oven it goes. And we will time it to see how long it takes. But halfway through the cooking, we're going to take it out and cover it with pie shell. We're going to make a pie shell out of foil. So that the crust won't get overcooked. Alright. In the oven it went. And we'll be back when it's time to put the pie shell on. The pie has been in the oven for about 30 minutes. I've taken it out now because the crust is where I want it to be as far as in color. Hope you guys can see that. See how the crust is nice and brown? I don't want to get any browner than that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a foil shield around it. Taking a sheet of foil, and I'm cutting a hole in the middle so that I could trim some away from it. Did you guys notice how the pie is puffing up? You see how it's kind of puffy? In the center is not just yet, but it's puffing up. And that is exactly what we want to happen. It's going to get poofier than that. And that is how you know that the custard is thickening. And you know, they sell pie shields in the store. I just never buy them. I always do things the hard way and make it myself. And there's no exact science to it. It's just a matter of getting the foil on there so that the center of the pie is still exposed and it could breathe and puff up, but yet it's covering the cooked crust so that it doesn't get any browner. Okay? Now this pie is hot, so be careful when you are putting on this foil. It takes me a few tries to get it right sometimes, so just bear with me. Okay, I think I got it how I want it. And trim away some more of this over here. Of course, I did not trim it far enough. Okay. Now this is how it looks after we have made our homemade pie shield, and back into the oven it goes. And I'll say maybe like for another 15 minutes, but of course I'm gonna time it for you guys to be exact, and that way I'll know as well. Okay, back in the oven. We'll be back. Okay, and we're back. Finally. The pie is out the oven, so it went for like another 20 minutes, and it puffed up real nice. And the center puffed up. And the center puffed up. And it's looking good. I'm going to remove the pie shield as gently as I can, so that it gives it a chance to cool off. You see? It kept our crust nice and brown, how we want it. It didn't over brown the crust. That's what we wanted, right? And now, when the pie cools off, it'll deflate a little bit, but then it'll be perfect. And let me show you. See how it's stiff now? It's not jiggly anymore. The cooler it gets, the stiffer it'll be. And that's what you want. And then here's your sweet potato pie. Okay, so if you like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. You can comment, subscribe to see more. I'm going to do another video after this, how to do the homemade pie crust version. And if you want to see that, check out my next video for homemade pie crust. But this one was just one if you were to buy a store-bought pie crust from the freezer section or one of the ones that you can roll out from the refrigerated section. Okay? Alright. Thank you guys. See you next time.